Yeah, Coach, I was pouring over some numbers after the game on Wednesday, and I noticed that when you had Moses, Devo, and Jalen on the floor together, y'all were plus 17 in 19 minutes, and then in the other 21, y'all were minus 33. It was a similar breakdown against Georgia, plus 27 and plus 3 for the other guys. Does that mean anything, or is that one of those kind of hollow stats that you mentioned after the game on Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, I think number one, Hutch, you got to look at the score. When you're down 30, um, hopefully you and I and Bob, and like, hopefully we can make a little bit of a run. So when we look at the stats, whether we're up 30 or down 30, there was a point where I stopped looking at our Georgia stats and stopped looking at our LSU stats because they're hollow. I stated after the last game that I thought Moses played pretty well. I thought Jalen played hard. So, no, I don't think that – and I certainly wouldn't want to divide the team in, these – because, quite frankly, some of the minutes were really bad by some of our players that were mentioned. So, no way, shape, or form do I look at those numbers in that manner in two games that were drastically – I mean, you're talking about 60-point difference between the games. Do I look at plus minuses a lot? Yeah, for sure. But our film session yesterday, Hutch, there was a lot of guys that did not do what they're supposed to do. And like Devo never jumped to the ball. And when your man passes, you're supposed to jump to the ball. So when we do our grading system, it was drastically different than the plus minus you just mentioned. And we do a defensive grading system after every game.
Bob.
Yeah, Eric, I know this obviously in a normal season and normal crowds and all that stuff, but in SEC games, the road team's 15-14. Does that surprise you? What do you think of that stat? And does that give you, some extra hope going to Alabama or any road game?
No, I think, Bob, it's interesting because when you study other sports, baseball, interesting stats on their home road in Major League Baseball, interesting stats when you look at the NFL, home and road. I think what the pandemic and playing through it has taught us is that there's more injuries during this year in all sports, for sure. And there's more wide margin of scoring gaps, more blowouts, whether it be NBA or whatever. And there's less of an advantage, a road team and home team. Having said that, do I feel more comfortable playing in Bud Walton than on the road? Still, even with the pandemic and limited amount of crowd, absolutely, I feel more comfortable. You're in your daily routine. So I think it's interesting, Bob, that the numbers are saying that across the board, that there's less of a home court advantage. But wherever we play Alabama, they're 5-0 and 10-3 on the season. So wherever we would play them would be very difficult.
But does that give you a little extra, the road team? And plus, I know it's different teams, different years, but Arkansas has won 3 in a row at Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I thought we played great there last year. We got off to a horrific start. I think it was 12-0 to start the game. And we kind of regrouped and played well towards the last 30 minutes of the game. But they're a really, really, really well-coached team. They have a big-time identity of who they are, either layups or three balls. Their defense is much improved over last year. So really, really talented team. And, again, we're playing a team that's 5-0 on the road. So, we gotta bring it or else it ain't going to be nice.
And they had a couple starters get hurt against Kentucky, Bruner and Jones. I know Bruner had surgery. I think Jones sounds like he'd be out for this game too. I'm not sure, but they still won at Kentucky by 20, even after those guys got hurt. Well, first of all, what do you think about their injuries? How they'll deal with that, and what do you think about them hammering Kentucky like that at Rupp?
Yeah, I brought up the injuries this year. We don't have KK. They know that. KK had surgery. Bebe had surgery. Justin Smith has not played. He's tried to practice a little bit of late, but has not been able to go through a full practice. So, I mean, their injuries, we got a plethora of them as well. J.D. Note did not practice yesterday. His shoulder got hurt in the LSU game. So I think everybody across the board is dealing with injuries for whatever reason this year. And they have an all-league first-team guy in Petty. They have a freshman in Primo that is going to have an incredible future beyond college. Reese is a guy with experience that can shoot the three ball. Shackelford's a starter from last year that's back. That's a really, really great three-point shooter and an improved tack the rim guy. So they got plenty of players regardless of who plays.
Is JD, is he okay to play Saturday?
Yeah, we hope so. I mean, we haven't practiced yet today. Like I said yesterday, didn't practice, and so hopefully, he'll be fine. I don't know. He hasn't been in the training room yet.
Okay, I got a couple more, but I'll give it back to Mike. Thanks.
Curtis.
Hey, Coach, how has practice and prep been since Wednesday? Have you been pleased with the mindset and the response from the team?
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, Curtis, we played Wednesday night, and so that only leaves us yesterday since we haven't done anything Friday. Yesterday was as long as practice as we've had since I've been here. We had weighted vests in many of our defensive drills and our transition drills. With the understanding we play an early game on Saturday. But I put forth the thought that we were going to have a really difficult practice after the way we performed against LSU. And if it affects us Saturday, it affects us Saturday. But in the over the course of the season, they're going to remember yesterday's practice. And so sometimes as a coach, you have to make a decision. Are you going to go light on Thursday after playing the way we did? Or are you going to have your most difficult practice of the year? And I did not have to ask any of the assistants their opinion on what we were going to do yesterday. We went old school, and coach practiced the way my dad probably would have yesterday.
Trey Schapp.
Yeah, Coach, speaking of that, your dad, how much do you think back and sometimes during a game wonder what he would do in a situation, or is that something that being around him for so long, it just comes instinctively?
I think, Trey, for sure that first of all, yes, it does come instinct. I just think that, being a ball boy for him and going to, after school. But I think all the coaches, like after a game, how to react with your team. I think of what Doc Rivers would do. I think about what Chuck Daly would do. I think about what Mike Fratello would do. I think about what Hubie Brown would do. And then I think about some of the assistants that I've had. David Fisdale, who was head coach of the Knicks in Memphis. Scotty Brooks, head coach of Washington right now in the NBA. Tom Thibodeau and I work together. I think about what each of those guys would do. And to be honest with you, when I flew back on the plane from Baton Rouge, I wrote down what each of them would do. And then you try to come up with a decision on what you're going to do moving forward.
Trey Biddy.
Yeah, Coach, I was just wondering what you thought the Alabama's secret is to success. Is it just the balance that they have? I mean, like, nobody's stats just like jump off the page. It just seems like balance all the way across the board with them.
They're really talented. I mean, Trey, they're really talented. John Petty's a guy that has been there for a while, a player that tested the waters that Avery Johnson had recruited. Herb Jones, a player that's been there. Those two guys are long. They can really defend. Petty's as good a shooter as there is. They recruited. Coach Nate Oates did a great job recruiting Primo. Did a great job recruiting a transfer in Quinterly. Shackelford's a guy that Coach Oates recruited that can really shoot the ball. They're deep. They have a style. They have an identity, and they're bought in. And so I think that all those reasons equal success for them thus far.
Nikki?
Yeah, Coach, Alabama shoots more three-pointers than even you guys do. How are you feeling about your perimeter defense? And also, of your assistants, like who is it that you count on to be kind of the counterweight to your energy, especially when things aren't going well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the second part of the question, Nikki, I think that all of them have their own balancing act to me. Certainly Coach Patrick knows my personality, having been around me, not just basketball wise, but he probably on staff knows me as well as anybody away from basketball. But Coach Mosier, I mean, he knows how I'm going to react to everything because we've been around each other, on staffs for so long. But and Coach Patrick is very opinionated on ways that he thinks we can do things. Coach Mosier loves to argue about anything. I mean, it could be 70 degrees and you could say it's 70 and sunny and he would find a way to tell you there's some cloud somewhere. Michael Musselman's great. I mean, that's who I sit next to on planes, and certainly, any of us that have children know that, your children love to disagree with you and play devil's advocate on everything. And so he's a great sounding board as well. And then I like to call other people that, after the LSU game, I've talked a lot to the Nevada baseball coach, TJ Bruce, just about, leadership and he's a sounding board for me that maybe gives a different perspective than even guys on our own staff. What was the other question?
Perimeter defense with the Alabama high frequency three-pointer.
Yeah, so I would say, Nikki, that we have not defended as good as we did last year. We're not as quick laterally across the board. Not having Justin Smith has really hurt us defensively. I think that when you see a player close out and his man has the ball, and if you have a high hand up, that's what we did last year almost on every catch. I've got to continue to do a better job in getting especially our younger guys to follow the game plan on both sides of the ball. But, I mean, you can look at the numbers. We're not taking away the three like we did last year. I have not changed one bit the drills that we do. I have not changed the verbiage that I use, but we're not defending the three as well as we did last year. You guys can look at the stats, and I'm telling you that our practices, the format of them, have not changed at all. So are we concerned with the way we defend the three and the dribble drive? No question. No question whatsoever. Because it's not just the three. We're also getting blown by. And so we've got to do a better job defending the three and taking away the dribble drive. Last year's group was awesome at taking away the three, and we kind of knew that we would give up some dribble drives. But right now we're giving up threes and dribble drives. That's what happens when you play LSU. When you do that.
Bob?
Yeah, Eric, you said a minute ago that you had the longest practice of the year. Do you know how long it was yesterday? How long you guys went?
No, film was pretty long. It was long, I can tell you that.
Okay. And then
it wasn't the longest of this year. It was the longest in a while.
Going back to Nevada days?
Yeah, longer than any time last year.
And then You mentioned the injuries this year. Do you think that's just a byproduct of less off-season work because of the pandemic, or what do you attribute that to?
Bob, I really don't know. I mean, again, I love watching other sports and love watching professional sports. It's across the board. I mean, every team we play, there's something there. So I don't really know because I'm not educated enough to figure it out. But I mean, I'm not making it up. Somebody can do some statistics on it, and I'm sure that my educated guess would be fairly accurate.
That'd probably be a good assignment for Andrew. but you said you had a long film session. A lot of guys didn't do what they were supposed to do, what they've been coached to do. Did you feel like that was a productive film session that you got through to guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we still got a lot of basketball to play, and this year at this time, we were still learning a system. We got a lot of new guys, and so there's a lot of ball to be played. The LSU game is not the end of the season. We have to learn from it. And quite frankly, we got younger guys that got to learn from it as well. When you play a game and you win by 30, there's no carryover. You're not bringing momentum into the next game. If you are, I mean, you got to be kidding me. Are you serious that you think you're hot one game and then it's going to carry over the next game and the other team's playing different defense and has different personnel? Well, I mean, they're student athletes, which means they're students and they're still learning. And so it's our job to continue to try to work with them and help them understand, the process of every night trying to get consistent.
And do you think you guys are due some good travel based on getting back late from Knoxville and getting to Baton Rouge late, or you hopeful of that?
I mean, we can't have any worse travel. So, I mean, whatever happens today, it'll be an upgrade from what has happened.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate it.
Trey Schapp, final question, please.
Coach, you were talking about not letting or taking momentum into the next game, and how do you do it when you win a game by 30 into the next game? But how do you keep the LSU game from affecting this next game and then potential games the rest of the season?
Well, hopefully, Trey, the game, I mean, you've got to move on. In football, you got a week between games. We play a sport where you better turn the page really quickly. And if you don't turn the page really quickly, then, shame on you. I mean, I woke up today thinking, how do we compete and give ourselves an opportunity to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa? That's the way I woke up today. We just got done with the meeting. We didn't talk 1 second about the LSU game. We did all that yesterday. All of our cleanup from that game has already happened. Will we go back to that? Absolutely. Will we watch that game again? Yeah. And when we'll watch it is when the Tigers come back and play us here. We'll go through that thing plenty of times. But right now I'm worried about how do we win this game, and then after the Alabama game on the plane, we'll dissect the game, win, lose. We'll go through it as a staff on Sunday. And then on Monday, we'll be worried about our next game on Wednesday. And that's just how you've got to approach things. Historically, we've been pretty good bouncing back from games. How we do this game, I have no idea. But again, we knew whether we wanted LSU or not, Bama's its own story.